Okay, welcome. If you're watching this presentation, you've responded to an ad of ours, either on the website or on a local website, and we appreciate you responding to that. We wanted to put this presentation together to give you some more information about what it is we're offering. With that, let me introduce myself. My name is James Tracy. I am the Director of Sales with TaxRecoveryBusiness.biz. I've got a picture here of my family, as you can see. I am based out of just outside of Ogden, Utah. I've lived here most of my life. Enjoy living here. It's a great place to raise a family. And I got involved with the tax recovery business a couple years ago, and ever since it's been a dream come true. So let's get into a little bit more detail on what we're going to cover in this presentation. We're going to go over a number of things. We're going to start off by talking a little bit more about the tax recovery industry, what it is, kind of give you the 30,000-foot overview of the industry itself. We're going to talk about the auditing process, and I'll cover this in more detail here shortly. We'll talk a little bit about why this business is needed now more than ever. It's nothing new. The tax recovery business has been around since taxes have been around, and it just seems to be growing every year. But today, more than ever, it's really needed. We'll talk about that. We'll go into more detail about what your day-to-day life will look like if you decide to move forward in purchasing one of our licenses. And we'll talk about what those license options that you have are. So with that, let's jump right into it and talk about what the tax recovery business is. Well, essentially, our job is to find money that has been overpaid by our clients in the form of taxes. There's also rebates and vendor payments, as well as a number of other things that we find for our clientele. We do this by conducting manufacturing and energy audits for our clients. The type of taxes that we audit are sales taxes, use taxes, energy taxes, employee taxes, property taxes, as well as energy spend audits. Now, what that refers to is companies that are in states like Texas or Pennsylvania that are in a deregulated energy marketplace. We can also have the ability of auditing what they're paying for their energy, what they're paying for their natural gas, and find out if there's lower rates. And that's what that refers to. The ideal client that we work with generally has revenues between $10 million and $100 million each year. That seems to be our sweet spot or our niche of clientele. We've worked with clients that are over the $100 million. It's just not as easy to get in with them, but we have worked with them. And this industry is a remarkably large industry. It's a $4.2 billion a year business. And the growth, the projections for this industry are showing that it's expected to double in the next 10 years. So let's talk a little bit more about the process. Now, let me be really clear. Our job, my job, and your job is not to actually conduct the audit. So don't worry, you don't have to know anything about tax laws or learning about tax laws. Our auditing partner does this, and we'll go into more detail about this in a bit. Again, you don't need to know anything about taxes to run this business. Your job simply is to create relationships with your ideal client, and that's really it. That's as simple as it gets. So the auditing process. Again, we do not conduct the audits ourselves. Our auditing partner, our preferred partner, is Smart Business Recovery Associates, or SBRA for short. They are the ones that conduct the actual audits. What they do is they send their former state auditors to the client's location, and they conduct an on-site audit, which typically takes somewhere between 1 to 3 business days, depends on the size of the company. Now, the reason why this is such a lucrative business and why it makes sense for your clients is there is no cost to the client for SBRA to conduct the audit. They do everything completely free of charge, and if they don't find any money, they do not charge the client any money. Now, when they do conduct an audit, they can generally go back 2 years. Again, depending on the state, they can go back as far as 4 years. If that company has never been audited before, SBRA will look at the books and they'll look at everything for the past 2, 3, or 4 years, again, depending on the state, and find if there are any refund amounts owed to that client. What they do at that point is SBRA will keep 45% of the recovered amount, and the remaining 55% will be returned to the client. So, here's a little bit more information about SBRA. This is a screenshot of their website here. Now, the reason why they are our preferred auditing partner is they do a fabulous job. They do a fantastic job of finding money for clients. All of their auditors are former state auditors. They know the tax laws inside and out, and they're constantly staying on top of the ever-changing tax laws. As I mentioned, they're the best firm that we have worked with. We've worked with a number of different firms in running our business, and they have treated us the best. They pay us the highest amount of commission. They pay us 30% of their recovered fee. Again, their website is right here. It's smartbusinessrecovery.com. If you want to check them out for yourselves, you're more than welcome to do so. Excuse me. So let's talk a little bit more about how we're paid. So to give you an idea of how we're paid, here's a sample. Let's say, for example, we send SBRA out to a client and they conduct an audit, and they find that $40,000, which, by the way, is the average amount found, was overpaid in some form of taxes or whatever. What SBRA then does is they will obtain a power of attorney from the client, and then they file all the necessary paperwork with the federal, state, local governments, as well as any vendors if that client has been working with any vendors. And as that money comes in, again, SBRA retains 45%. They send the remaining 55% to the client, and then they pay you 30% of their 45%. So here's a brief example. 45% of 40,000 is 18,000, and 30% of that would be $5,400. The total process typically takes 1 to 3 months to receive all of the commissions, and they just start sending you a check once a month. Everything's in the arrears. So, for example, currently as I'm recording this, this is the month of May. So anything that was found during this month of May would be paid to you during the month of June as it's coming in. Okay, how successful is SBRA? Well, this is what I love about this business. They are going to find money in 9 out of 10 of the audits they conduct. That's a 90% conversion rate. So that means if you were to send them out on 4 appointments in a month, they're going to find money in 3 of those 4 appointments. And again, the average commissions, as I mentioned, are somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000 paid to you, so you can do the math on exactly how that goes. Now, the largest commission that we've received in running this business was in excess of $1.2 million. We'll get into more details about this here in a second. But matter of fact, let's talk about that right now. So we're going to go over a case study here of Coca-Cola. Everybody's heard of Coca-Cola. They're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Last year, we sent SBRA out to meet with Coca-Cola to discuss doing an audit. And when they sat down with the executives at Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola said, "Hey guys, our accounting team is fabulous. You're not going to find anything." They said, we think you're wasting your time. You're not going to find anything. And so SBRA said, "That's okay. Listen, it doesn't cost you anything. Do you mind if we still go in and take a look?" And they said, "Sure, go ahead, but we think you're wasting your time." So SBRA spent 3 days, and during that 3 days, they found that there was over $10.7 million in overpaid taxes and rebates and vendor refunds owed to Coca-Cola. So you can imagine the surprise on the executives of Coca-Cola. Again, the 45% that SBRA retained, they paid us our commission of $1.2 million, which was a fabulous payday for us. Now, let me be very clear. This is not the norm. This is a very unusual case. And again, Coca-Cola does well in excess of $100 million a year in revenues. But again, I wanted to give you an idea of what is possible out there. So here's another case study. This is the Richardson Trident Company out of Texas. This is more the standard that we see. So this is a sample of the form that SBRA sends out to the state requesting the refund. I don't know if you can see it on your screen there. But they requested a sales tax refund in the amount of $154,849.61. And they mentioned these vendors here and their tax ID numbers. So again, mentioned they found 154,000 under the state of Texas sales tax refund rule 3.0. They paid us a commission of $20,000 for this one. This is generally what we see from the audits. Now, we do get a lot of people that will ask us, okay, so what happens if SBRA goes in and conducts an audit and they find, let's say it's this $155,000, and then the state comes back and says, nope, you're wrong, it should have only been $140,000. What happens there? Well, you are 100% protected because you are a third party to this transaction, or we are as well. And all of that liability lies with SBRA. So your commissions are protected. Any money that's paid to you from SBRA, they're not going to come back to you and collect any of that. That's totally protected. So, okay. Now let's talk about some frequently asked questions. We get this question all the time. Why wouldn't these companies just change their accounting practices? This is asked all the time. And the answer really isn't complicated. It may seem like it isn't, or it is, but it really isn't. It comes down to two things: money and time. These tax laws and these rebate laws are constantly changing. Sometimes they change once every 90 days because these organizations are governed not only at the federal level, but also at the state level that they operate in, the city level, the county level. There's any number of tax laws that are constantly changing, and it's difficult enough for their accountants to stay on top of the books, let alone to learn all the ins and outs of these tax laws. So because of that, these laws change, and their guys just cannot stay on top of it. So their accountants do what they can to stay on top of their books. They just don't have the time or the resources to stay on top of these recovery laws. So with that, probably the best way to explain it is like this. Let's say, for example, you're driving down the road, and your check engine light in your car comes on, and your engine just shuts down. So your car is done. It needs to be fixed. So basically, you've got two options. You can fix it yourself, or you can pay to have it done. Well, if you're like most people, you're just going to take it to a certified mechanic, pay him $300-400, whatever the cost is, sometimes more depending on the repair, to have him fix it for you. Well, to give you an example of why companies don't just change their accounting practices, it's a lot like this. If you wanted to fix it yourself, but you decide you want to learn how to do it the correct way, and so you go and you become ASE certified, and you go and spend all this money to become certified, it's a lot the same. You could go out and spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to learn how to learn it to do it yourself, or you could pay hundreds of dollars to have someone who's already spent the thousands do it for you. That's essentially the reason why. So option one is the most expensive. Option two makes the most sense financially and fiscally, just because of that perspective. So let's talk about how often the audits are conducted. This is another question we typically get asked. SBRA can conduct an audit once every 90 days or once a quarter, which is essentially the same thing. With most companies, audits are conducted twice a year. If they do a lot of business, say in excess of $100 million a year, audits are conducted more frequently, just because of the purpose of with how much they're manufacturing and their revenue amounts, there's a substantial amount more of money that could be paid back to that company. Next question is, how competitive is the marketplace? Well, that's the beauty of this business, is that there is more business than any one person can handle. To give you an idea, right now, there are more than 120,000 manufacturing companies with operations in the U.S. That's just manufacturing companies. If you were to come on board as a licensee, it really would only take 10 to 20 of those companies to produce 7 figures of revenue for your business. That gives you a pretty good idea of how big this industry is. This industry is large. And that brings me into my next segment of why this is needed now more than ever. Again, as I've mentioned before, the tax laws are constantly changing. And because of that, companies are looking for ways to show growth in a down economy. Today, just heard on the news that earlier this year they reported a positive growth in the gross domestic product, or the GDP, which shows an indication of our economy. However, today they reported that that was actually a negative. And so these companies that are publicly traded and have investors and stockholders that they report to are looking for ways to give back to those investors. And what better way to do that than by overpaid taxes, overpaid money? This also helps to create a couple of things. If a corporation finds that they've overpaid in taxes by hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, that can also help to create jobs for hardworking people who are in need of well-paying jobs. So it makes a lot of sense as far as that goes and why this is needed now more than ever. So let's talk a little bit about what your day-to-day life will look like. Well, the business model is very simple. You set appointments for SBRA. SBRA conducts audits. They find the money. They pay you. That's really what it comes down to. Now, as far as setting those appointments for SBRA, there's two ways you can do this. Number one, you can set them yourself if you so choose. The second option is you can have our preferred call center set them for you. Now, the way we run our business is we run a mix of both. We have a couple of in-house appointment setters that we've hired, and then we also have our preferred call center setting appointments for us. We find that we need to have consistently between, at a minimum, 3 appointments each month. We're setting closer to 5 and 7 appointments each month just for our business. But if you really want to make this a six-figure, mid to high six-figure revenue business, you need to have a minimum of 3 appointments each month. The sweet spot is 3 to 5. Now, if you choose to set appointments yourself, we're going to provide you with a script that we have perfected over the years of doing this, and it works to get appointments. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not easy. You've got to have thick skin. A lot of these corporations receive sales calls on a daily basis, and even though you're not calling in to sell anything, they still don't understand that. So it's not easy, but it is rewarding. Now, if you're like me and can't stand the thought of cold calling, you can do what we prefer to do, and we have the call center set these appointments for us. Now, the reason why we work with this call center, and I'll go over who this is here in a minute, is we have negotiated with them a lower rate and guaranteed appointments. What that means is, if they do not give us a predetermined set amount of appointments each month, they either refund our money or they credit our account for the following month. And each one of these appointments is $500 each. So this call center that we use, they know this business well, and it provides a huge return on investment for us. Their website is executivephonepros.net if you want to check them out. You'll see pricing on their website, and it says appointments start at $750 or $700, somewhere right around there. If you were to call them direct and wanted to try and set this up on your own, you're going to pay more. That's part of the value that we're providing with these business licenses is we have negotiated the best rates. This is by far the best way to grow this business. Now, we are often asked, how much time will I need to spend on my business each week? And that is up to you. Myself and my partner, John Ryan, we run this business and we do very well. When I say very well, we do a mid to upper 6 figures in revenue. Some years we're over 7 figures. And we are spending 20 to 25 hours a week. So it's a fabulous business to run if you're looking for more time to spend with the family or more time to take vacations. I mean, whatever it is that you're looking for. However, I will caution you, this business is not for the faint of heart. We are looking for people who are serious about running a very successful, serious business. And we're not looking for anybody who's willing to throw money at us. That's not what we're looking to do. We have very successful track record. Matter of fact, every single licensee that has purchased one of our licenses from us is still doing this business to this day. None of them have failed, and that's a pretty good track record for us, and we'd like to keep that going. So let's talk about the license options. Now, we have 3 different license options that you can choose from, and it really depends on what your budget is and what your investment amount that you're looking at using. But obviously, the more you spend, the more you're going to get. So our first option is option number 1, and the cost is $50,000. Now, with this option, you're going to get everything you need to run the business. In addition to that, you're going to get 6 accounts that we have previously secured. We're going to sign those accounts over to you. And those 6 accounts provide a monthly cash flow of $22.50 each month for a total of 20 months. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why in the world would we do that? Well, when we put these licenses together, we wanted to make it very, very easy for you to jump right in and get started. So with that monthly cash flow right there, what a lot of our licensees will do is they will use that money to pay for their appointments with our preferred call center. And as you'll start to see, as you start getting into this business 1, 2, 3 months down the road, as your recovery checks start coming in and start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you're going to want to start investing more and more back into your business. Now, in addition with this, you're going to get monthly coaching support from John Ryan, my partner, and he does this once a month through a GoToMeeting or a Skype, whatever makes the most sense for you, where you can talk over the phone, and he's going to find out what's going on in your business, help coach you to become successful, and you also have daily email support. So if you have any questions, hey, how do I handle this situation or whatever, you can email him and he will get back to you and let you know how to handle that. Now, in addition to this license comes with a 2-year guarantee. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that guarantee is here in a second, but let's talk about your second option. Option number 2 is a $25,000 license. Now, again, you're going to get everything you need with this package as well. The major difference is instead of 6 accounts, we're going to provide you with 3. And those 3 accounts are going to provide you with a cash flow of a little over $1,000 a month for 20 months. Again, most of our licensees will use this money to pay for their appointments. Same thing, coaching calls through GoToMeeting, email support, as well as the 2-year guarantee. Your last option is option number 3, which is $10,000. And this option here, again, you're going to get everything you're going to need to run the business. The major difference is you're going to get 1 account, which provides just under $500 a month for 20 months, as well as the same coaching and the guarantee. So let's talk about what does the guarantee cover. Well, when we decided to put these licenses together, we wanted to help eliminate the risk associated with a new business. If any of you have owned or run a new business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a major risk. Matter of fact, the Small Business Association says that well over 80% of all new businesses fail within the first 2 years of operations. So when we put this together, we said, you know what, how can we help eliminate that risk, but yet still make sure that we're successful and that our licensees are successful? So this is what we came up with. If you don't recoup your initial investment, so your $50,000, $25,000, or oops, I should say $10,000, not 20, within the first 2 years of you operating this business, you can request a full refund of that investment. We are very confident you're going to be successful. Matter of fact, all of our licensees thus far are still active in running their businesses, and that's a track record we want to keep going. But we do realize that sometimes things happen, and even after everything you've done or after everything we've done, you just can't get there. We want to give you that extra level of assurance, and everything that we're talking about will be put into writing. It's in the contract that we send over to you, that you sign, that we sign. So there's no questions whatsoever as to exactly how this guarantee is covered. Okay, so with that, the next step is let's talk. So what we would do from here is we'd set up a time where you could speak with me personally, James, so that I can answer any and all questions that you have. So there's a form directly below this video you can fill out, or you can also call me direct. My phone number is there on the screen. We want to get any and all questions you have regarding the business. So if there's any questions that you had that you wrote down during this presentation, if you'd like a copy of this presentation, I'm happy to email that to you. Just let me know. And that's pretty much it. Folks, I really hope that this presentation has given you an idea of just exactly what this business is, how exciting this business is. And if this is something you think is what you're looking for, then let's talk. Let's get your questions answered. Let's explore the opportunity if this is going to be the opportunity you're looking for. Again, ask any questions you have. Feel free to call me anytime. I have no problem whatsoever. That's my direct line. And or fill out the form below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. With that being said, thanks so much, and have a great day.